Welcome to Vital Signs, where we talk about all things health, wellness, vitality, and peak human performance, bringing you the leading edge knowledge so that you can arm yourself and really be an agent of your own health. Our health is our greatest asset, and so it's super important that we take control of it. Today, you are in for a treat because we're going to talk with Dr. Sarah Breen. She is a pediatrician, and what we're going to talk about is how do we get our kids into a healthy lifestyle? How do we encourage our kids to do all of the things that are going to keep them performing well, being amazing, and just set them up for success? So without further ado, I am going to introduce to you Dr. Sarah Breen. Welcome to the studio.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And as a reminder, anything that you hear on this show is not medical advice. It is simply for educational purposes. Please consult with your practitioner for anything that you would like to implement. But Sarah, I would love to start with, as a parent and a grandparent now, one of the hardest things to do is to get the kids to eat greens. Like veggies, no Gigi, I don't want to eat veggies. So I know this is something you're very passionate about. How do you help parents to get their children to eat healthy foods?
Sure, that's a great question and a question I get all the time. So I think the biggest piece is to encourage it from the beginning and also to make sure you're eating vegetables in front of them, having meals together, seeing that you're eating it is going to be really important. But there's also other ways to kind of get them into it if it's later than that, like having them go shopping with you, pick out what vegetables they want to eat, maybe growing them if you can. A lot of kids really like to do that. And if all else fails, there's really good ways to hide them into foods they do like so that you can at least get something into them.
Okay, so do tell, how do we hide all the goodness in foods that they actually like and they don't know it?
Good question. So first of all, the easiest way would be a smoothie, of course. You can kind of put little bits of things like spinach, kale, any kind of vegetable in, and they don't taste it. So that's the easiest way to get the most veggies. Other things I like to do are have people shred zucchini or carrots into things like pancakes. There's really no taste to those and there's really no color change. So that's really helpful. Cauliflower rice is great. You can throw that into things. You can put veggies into pasta sauces, pureed veggies, meatballs. There's all sorts of different ways, if you're creative, to get veggies into foods they already like.
Okay, so talk to me about this because you mentioned we have to model this. And I'm a human performance specialist and I was in sports medicine for 20 years. And one of the greatest things that the nutritionist would stress is how many greens for elite athletes to eat. And they'd all be like, I don't eat green stuff. So once they get to that those teenage years, and we can't exactly hide that we're putting it into other foods because they're a little bit more savvy than that. How do we get our teens to be making those healthy choices, especially because many of the times our teens are with their friends, etc. How do we get them a healthy lifestyle that they are making healthy choices when they're not with us?
So that's a great question, and I talk about that a lot, actually. If they're athletes, that helps because you can talk about how, athletes that are famous, NBA players, MLB players, do you think they're eating garbage all the time? Probably not. They have to eat it. It's like fuel for a car, right? So if you don't put the gas in, you're not going to get peak performance. So if you don't eat all the stuff that you need as a human, you're not going to be as good as you could be. So I like to put the ball in their hands and talk about sports performance and just making sure they're making right choices before they leave for college, because by then it's truly in their hands. And so we talk a lot about that and about BMI and about just making healthy choices earlier rather than later.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the next question. I know all of the mamas who are about to send their children off to college for the first time are thinking about this. How do we help our kids not to gain that frosh 15?
Absolutely. I was one of them. I think I was a freshman 20, 25. Chicken fingers and fries looked good every day, and naps looked way better than the gym. So I think a couple things. One, the food selections have gotten a lot better at colleges since we were there. They definitely have a lot of healthy choices, and I think, again, modeling it is so important. Making diet a family, the diet itself, it's all about moderation, right? And I teach that, and I've taught that to my kids from the beginning. Make good choices, and then sometimes make bad choices. So I think making sure the entire family is on board with healthy choices is number one, and getting people outside and exercising and just talking about it in a positive way.
So you talk about making healthy choices a lifestyle, just making it something that we do as a family from the time they're a very early age. And so I want to address, you said get them outside. Well, we live in a society where they're plugged into the screen all day long. And we'll dive into that later. But how do we encourage our children who maybe they've had a lot of screen time and they don't want to go outside, or it's hot outside? Like, we live in Texas here, and it can be 100+ degrees in the summer. So how do we encourage our kids to get outside when they're just not seeing that with the kids at school? Like, video games and TV is such a part of their life.
Sure. I mean, there are some kids who really don't like organized sports, and it's not about that. It's just about being active. So nobody has to join the soccer team to get activity. If they don't like that, it's not helpful. You have to be able to find something that they like to continue to sustain it. So I encourage people to go on YouTube, use the free, yoga apps and whatever there is that's free that they can kind of delve into different things and just try different things and see what they like, because that's even adults aren't going to work out if they don't like what they're doing. So it's really important that they're able to choose. So there are indoor activities you can do. I mean, do it as a family, do obstacle courses, sit there for an hour and come up with different activities that you can each do, or a challenge. I think that it doesn't have to be outside, but I think that there have to be a lot of rules with screen time. We can talk about that more later, but I think that maybe in order to get the screen time, they have to do 60 minutes of physical activity, because that's what's recommended by the AAP.
And so as we think about getting this activity, a lot of the schools have really decreased, recess and the ability for them to get that in the middle of their day. So as busy parents, how do we encourage our children and get that activity with our children? Because maybe we work a 9 to 5, maybe we have 2 jobs. And so we have very limited time with our kids, and we feel like, all I've got to do is get them to eat. As long as I'm getting them fed, I'm doing a good job. But how do we incorporate a little bit movement into that very limited time that we have as well?
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely true. That's a problem. But I think that if you can, again, encourage them and talk about it as a family and just how important it is, and also to make it almost a reward system of, hey, listen, if you need to do this physical activity before you can jump on the screen, or whatever it is, just to even get 30 minutes a day. The goal is an hour, but anything is better than nothing.
Absolutely, I love that. And are there any resources that parents could access that are maybe watching this or listening to this, that they can get some interesting ideas that they can incorporate into their, family life?
Absolutely. The American Academy of Pediatrics is always a really good choice. Just the AAP.org to go to for all information. Healthychildren.org is also a good one. Both of those have a lot of information on and tips on eating healthy and exercising, and also just ways to do that in not an expensive way as well.
I love it. Let's save some money. I'm going to ask you another question, because I know we're going to dive into screen time, but all of these immersive activities have emerged where it's like a museum with interactive kind of things that the kids can do. Is that something that actually gets that activity going? If they're playing, it might be a game, like it might be a video game, but they're having to move in the space because it recognizes that. Does that count as activity?
It's definitely better than nothing. I mean, I'd rather them do that than sit like this on the screens. There's a lot of thumb injuries from that all of a sudden, and neck pain. I'll see my younger one who's on an iPad, and his neck will just be uncomfortable. So at least if they're moving, it's better than nothing. But obviously, screen time is screen time.
And I'm just going to say this for the record. Everybody knows this because I've said it on television before. I dance like nobody's watching, like I'm up in the club. And when I have my grandbaby over, like, she loves to dance too. So we make it kind of a game, and it's something that we both have fun with. So what I'm hearing is get the kids involved. Get the kids helping you make the decisions at the grocery, helping you make the meals, and then they're going to want to eat it because, hey, they made it. And so they're excited to eat it, and get them involved in the activities. Any last little tidbits that we could be paying attention to for our children?
I think just to say that if you look on the AAP website, there's actually a bunch of different visuals of this, but the goal is 5-2-1-0, and that's 5 fruits and veggies a day, which I always tell my patients I will settle with something vegetable and something fruit. 2 hours or less of screen time a day, 1 hour of physical activity, and 0 sugary drinks. So those are my go-tos. You can print it out for them, put it on your refrigerator, you can screenshot it to your teenagers. I think that is helpful.
Fantastic. So it was 5,
2,
2, 1, 0.
0.
Let's just repeat that for everybody. That's 5 fruits and veggies a day, but at least one of each counts in the right direction. It's 2 hours or less of screen time. It's 1 hour of physical activity and 0 sugary drinks, which, by the way, folks, sugary drinks also includes juices, right?
100%.
And that's something that we as parents don't think about. It blew my mind when I started working with a nutritionist once I got out of medical school and found out that juices are actually not healthy. I was thinking, oh, well, it's a healthy option to a soda. Well, yeah, maybe it's a little bit less chemicals than a soda, but it's still a very sugary drink. It's better to actually eat your fruits and veggies than to drink them. Thank you so much for that. We do have to take a brief break, but we will be right back after these messages.